I in? Yes? Okay. So thank you for coming. Thank you for everyone who has come to the event so far. We've been really excited to have Scott as our speaker today. This guy has done a ton, more than a ton of research to get where he is today with the information that he has available to you. I'm really thrilled that he has the kind of an analytical mind and searching type of a personality to do the work that he did to get to where he is today. So with that said, there are some QR codes around that'll give you all the information on some of the things he's going to talk to you about today, as well as we're going to be doing a Q&A. So I'm hoping that that's going to be helpful to everyone who's here, and down the road to anyone who comes into our videos out once we record it and have it out in the public, so that you get a lot of really good information and that you'll understand a little bit more about alternative health and different health options and different ways of looking at health. So with that, I would love to introduce Scott Lyon, a good friend.
Okay, yeah, I guess by way of setting the stage, that's one thing I neglected to mention is we're going to do about half of this is going to be me talking, and then the better half is going to be Q&A, so that you guys, as I'm giving you a real quick rundown of a lot of stuff here, you can be thinking of things you want to know more specifically about, and the conversation will be the better part. So just to lay the ground plan here, what are we looking at in terms of our health as a society? If we look at the number of deaths that occur, and we do that statistically, how many people died of which causes, we find the number one cause of death in the United States today, and in the developed world is largely similar. Number one is artery disease. And artery disease is what causes heart attacks and strokes. So heart attack and stroke are two manifestations of essentially the same disease. Things that are in your diet build up inside your blood vessels, and gradually the inside of your blood vessels close off until the arteries go into your heart and the arteries go into your brain are carrying very little blood supply. And when that condition prevails throughout all the 66,000 miles of blood vessels in your body, it's a systemic condition. Good news is it's reversible, but right now, the state we're in, it's taking out about 2,200 people every day in America. Every 30 seconds, somebody keels over with a heart attack. Every minute, one of them dies. And you know, it's about 40% of all the deaths in the country. So it's something that we probably should be taking a close look at, see if we can get a handle on. What can we do about this? Almost half of us. Number two is the family of diseases they call cancer. Cancer is essentially an unregulated growth of a particular area of the body. It gets started and it starts feeding itself and growing, and it takes over the resources that your body is supposed to be providing for organs and tissues to do their normal functions. And instead you got something growing in there doing abnormal functions and taking over. That's about 30% of the deaths in America every day. 1,600 people a day in cancer. So between the top two causes of death, that's 70% of everyone who dies is from just two diseases. And both of these diseases are closely related to what we eat and the way we live our lives, the choices we make about our activity levels and our habits and things. So both of those things are within the control of the patient. If you suspect that you may be on your way to becoming a patient for one of these diseases that affects 70% of Americans, there are things you can do to head it off. The number 3 cause of death is, they've got a fancy name for it. They call it iatrogenic causes. Iatry is the Latin for medical treatment. Medical treatments causing deaths. This is recorded in hospitals, whether there was a mistake in the treatment, a mistake in the medication, treatment that failed to accomplish its intended purpose. That cause of death is number 3 behind artery disease and cancer. Now, artery disease and cancer have a tendency to put people in the hospital. Once you're in the hospital, then you're exposed to a whole new set of risks. And I'm not here to trash hospitals. Good work is done there, and we absolutely need hospitals for trauma care and acute cases of disease. But if there's something you can do in your everyday lifestyle to keep yourself from ending up in the hospital, that's a very good thing to do. We go down the list here. We have emphysema, Alzheimer's, diabetes, and kidney failure, following up the top 3. And all of these diseases are diseases that are affected by lifestyle and diet. They're diseases that we can do something about. Now, when I was younger, I'd hear the reports on the 6 o'clock news, and I just felt like there's so many different diseases out there affecting different people in different ways. How would you know what to prepare for? But in the study I've been doing in the last year or so, I find that there's one thing that you can do to seriously improve your odds of escaping any of these chronic degenerative diseases. Chronic degenerative diseases that are taking most of us out are caused essentially by the same things and will respond to changes that we ourselves make. So we have it within our power to avoid the need for medical intervention, which is a very good thing to do if you can do it. To move on to my own journey of experience, I mentioned earlier, I always worked in manufacturing. I'm one of the kids who was taking my toys apart to build something different out of the pieces. I've always wanted to fidget with my hands and build things up from the ground. That's where my interests always lay. So I really, you know, even in high school, biology was the thing I enjoyed the least because it was the most complicated and the most difficult to comprehend. But in January of 2021, I got sick for a while, and I was working, one of my jobs was at a restaurant at the time. In order to go back to work after being sick, you have to hand them a sheet that says you did lab tests and you're not infected anymore. So I go in for the lab tests, and they say, we're seeing something on your pancreas that's concerning. So they sent me to a different hospital for more tests, and then a week later I went in for an ultrasound. Middle of January they came out and told me I've got a cyst growing on the pancreatic duct. So the pancreas works in your endocrine system, producing hormones. It also produces digestive enzymes that are sent into your digestive tract that help you absorb the nutrients out of what you're eating. And this cyst is growing, and as it grows, it's blocking off the duct that allows that fluid to get into my GI tract so that I can get some value out of what I eat. Which, you know, that's a big problem to have to solve. And it's going on inside me. I can't see it. I can't take my tools out of my toolbox and go to work on this problem. I've got to learn a whole new science in order to go to work on this problem. And I learned something 25 or 30 years ago, back in the days when the smartest kids in school were switching over from slide rules to calculators. They had these little machines about this big that would do all the math you can imagine needing to do. And they were based on a chip. Like if you look in the back of a transistor radio, there's the card with all those little trails on it. And a chip is a thing about the size of one fleck of glitter, and it's got thousands of layers of all those little trails on it. When they make those chips, they use bacteria to do the labor of carving all those little trails where they want them to be. And I happen to think, well, I've got a problem going on with something microscopic and biological inside me where I can't get at. But maybe of all the thousands of different bacteria and microorganisms out there, if I eat the right microorganisms, maybe I can get them to go to work on my problem. So that was the idea that turned my attention toward nutrition. The surgeon's telling me, we got to get you ready for this radical surgery. You only got a few weeks before we better do it. If we don't do this within the next few weeks, it might be too late for us to help you. So I'm feeling the pressure. And I asked the surgeon, well, would it make sense for me to go on a good diet and look at supplements and vitamins maybe in order to fortify myself in anticipation of a long, difficult recovery? And the surgeon's words were, I don't think it makes much sense to go crazy with vitamins. And as I think about that now, I'm very grateful that he put that in such derogatory terms, because it made it very easy for me to stop paying attention to him and start paying closer attention to what he was telling me wouldn't matter at all. Right? I know it would matter. I know that much. Making a change in everything I do. It's got to make a change in my biological constitution. And the reason I have cancer, the reason I have this pancreatic cyst, is because there's something wrong with my biological constitution. I've been putting things in my mouth for much too long that instead of fortifying my ability to sustain my life, they've been detracting from it. And I've got to figure out what I need to know in order to change back to what I should be doing instead of what I have been doing. So with all this pressure built into the system, they're sending me from one appointment to another appointment, from this doctor to that doctor who's going to give me a second opinion that's just like the first opinion. And I'm losing a lot of time off work, and I'm getting a lot of pressure to just go with the program and do what we tell you. And by the time they told me it was going to be surgery and then 6 weeks to recover from surgery, and then chemotherapy every week or every other week for at least 6 months. And when you go in for the chemotherapy, it's going to take 3 days to recover from that before you'll be able to go back to work again. I've talked to people who went in for chemotherapy every week, and after the treatment, they felt good for about a day just before the treatment. And then it was time to go in for treatment again, and it was another week. They in bed all day, can't get anything done. And in my situation, if I'm going to lose that much time off work, then I need to work in order to keep my life moving, in order to keep my bills paid and rent. And if I can't be working, then why am I so worried about staying alive if I can't do my job and cover my costs of living? So the bottom line was, I was in a predicament where the standard Western approach to medical treatment just didn't have anything available for me that would help. I had to find another way. So all of this pressure to act had me feeling like I'm on a conveyor being led through a standard process where everybody gets treated the same. Oh, this is your list of symptoms. These are the treatments we give people like you. Just take this piece of paper, go on to the next guy. He's going to cut you open and throw some pieces away, and then we're going to give you toxic medications and hope you survive. Well, with the diagnosis that I got, they take everybody with that diagnosis and they look 5 years out. What are people doing 5 years out? 86% of people are dead 5 years out with that diagnosis. If you get all of the treatments they tell you you should get, in 5 years, 86% of people are dead. Oh, okay, so what happens if I don't get any of the treatments at all? Well, the statistics are just the same. 5 years out, 86. 5 years out, people who do nothing at all, 14% of them still make it past 5 years. So, for me, what was on offer just didn't make sense. I had to find another way. So I got off the conveyor and I got on YouTube and started studying under every doctor that I could find on YouTube who was talking about nutrition and health. And I had a couple of appointments with local MDs who had nutritional programming available. And the first one I dealt with had a diet book from somebody that he taught out of, and I followed that guy who wrote the diet book on YouTube, and about a third of what he was saying was contradictory to what I thought was good science backed up with statistics and results. So I decided that here's a guy who's just selling a diet book. He's telling me, he's a cardiologist, and he's telling me it's great to drink olive oil right out of the bottle. And I know what oil does to the insides of your arteries from studying what doctors talk about for the last year. There's a great guy, I'll give you the rest of the information, he's on my website, his name is Dr. Michael Clapper, and he does several different lectures that all approach this question of build-up in your arteries and what causes it and what can we do exactly, specifically to turn that around. So I'll put you in touch with him. What was it like? What were my experiences like? I had days when in order to walk across the room, I had to reach out and hold on to the furniture so I didn't keel over. I had days when I'm working delivering pizza, and the last driver just took his order. I'm up, I go to the oven, take the ticket off, and I read the ticket, because that tells me what I need to do. And I'm reading the ticket, and I can't tell what it says. And I read down through it a couple more times, and I can read what the words are, but I can't tell what the sentences mean. And I learned a trick. If I sit down and breathe deep a few times, I could read the sentence again, and I could make out what the ticket meant. So now I'm out on the road, driving a delivery. I do this 10 or 12 times a night, 3-4 nights a week, driving deliveries. I just turned the corner and I'm halfway down this road. Why am I going down this road? Let's see, where was I was supposed to end up? And if I got to the next intersection, I'd look around and that intersection would remind me, oh, I turned right at this one. And after making that right turn, now I can remember where I'm going again. So I got through my work day, and at the end of the work day, I'm thinking, well, what if this gets worse? Where is that going to leave me? I ended up delivering order A to customer B and order B to customer A, and they called me up and said, we're not going to need your work here anymore. Now my income is cut in half. And it got dicey for a while. What I didn't realize is those symptoms of brain fog that they talk about, Some people call it chemo brain. I guess you get it from chemo as well. In my case, I had radically changed what I was eating to such a degree that all my cells are downloading all the toxins and crap that's been resident in my tissues for years on end. And getting rid of all of that stuff at once, you experience some symptomology, let's put it that way. It was quite an adventure for a while. Psychologically, I wake up every morning feeling like I got a gun to my head. And when I go downstairs to the kitchen and reach for something, everything I pick up and put in my mouth, in my predicament, I'm thinking, this is either going to help to heal me or it's going to help to kill me. So everything I pick up and put in my mouth is a life-threatening choice or a life-preserving choice. But, you know, thank the world of technology that we have the internet now. I'm dyslexic. If I wanted to read a book on nutrition, it would take me 6 months to read a book. But I can come home from work at night and watch the internet till 2 o'clock in the morning and take in 6 or 8 lectures from university professors from Southern California and Maine and Australia and South Africa and everywhere in the world that somebody's doing research on this. The internet gets me there. And that's what I've been doing. For the last 15, 16 months, I've spent anywhere between 4 and 7 hours a day listening to probably about 175 different doctors, clinical researchers, naturopaths, healers of various forms and various disciplines, and listening to what everybody says. And I've met doctors on the internet who went to medical school, and now they're saying that whole foods nutrition means eating everything from the nose to the tail, the eyeballs and the hooves and the bone marrow and everything else from the animal. That's what it takes to get a complete nutrition program. That doesn't really square with a lot of the other things I'm hearing. But this particular doctor happened to grow up on a cattle ranch in Wyoming before he went to medical school. So I have to ask myself, was his mind already made up about what's good to eat long before he learned anything about being a doctor? And I'm going through this process with everybody I'm listening to. I'm listening to their arguments, and I'm listening to the scientific research that backed up their argument, and I'm listening to how their research study was designed. Did they watch 12 people for 12 weeks? Or did they watch 1,200 people for 30 years? And what were the results that they got that told them whether they succeeded or failed? Did somebody lower their cholesterol by 10 points? Or did somebody die of cancer? Or not die of a heart attack after they'd been diagnosed with coronary disease? What constitutes good science, and how do you tell? And after doing months and months of this process of sorting out what's good information and what's marginal or dismissible information, and then how am I going to use what I'm learning in my kitchen to... I've got to teach a motorcycle mechanic how to make carrots as exciting as cheeseburgers. That's what I have to do now. For 4 months, I go in the grocery store and I had to walk past all those things. I love stinky blue cheese on Ritz crackers, and I love Frito scoops dipped in oily hummus, and as a mechanic, I'm not a foodie, but when I do eat, I found a few things that I really like to eat, and now I can't eat them anymore. So what now? If all those things are gone, then what's left? And I'm bringing home what's left. Here's my grocery cart full of beets and carrots and onions and celery. And now I gotta go in the kitchen and teach this motorcycle mechanic how to make that stuff enjoyable. And that's an experiment that's still in the works, but I'm seeing glimmers of success. So I can't really tell you about that. That's the part I'm gonna be asking you guys about. But after a year of these kinds of experiences, about November, I think it was right around Thanksgiving, maybe after Thanksgiving, I had these 3 realizations that came one right after another within just a few days and struck me. That the first thing that I stopped and deliberately thought about how shocking it was to learn the statistics about chronic disease in our society today, and to learn all of these different medical facts about what we know that we could be using and what we're not using, what we're using instead. I had a lot of shocking revelations. Right at the top of that list of shocking revelations is just how many of us are going to be affected by chronic degenerative diseases, primarily that artery disease and the family of cancers. 70% of us dying of that. Cancer today, 57% of everyone living in America today will experience cancer in their lifetime, statistically speaking. That's, I mean, not in this room, but nationwide, over our entire population, every American today is more likely to get cancer than they are to escape getting cancer. That's something that was shocking to me, and I think we should all be talking about and doing something about it. Okay, that's why I begged Shirley to let me talk here today. The second realization that I had in that period of time was about the unique advantage that I feel I've enjoyed just in my ability to undergo this adventure I've been on for the last year and a half. I'm a single guy, my kids are up and gone, marriage is over with. I live by myself in my garage with my 5 motorcycles who sleep downstairs from me. I have all of my free time. All the time I'm not at work, I can be studying this. Now, I contrast that with the realization that came just before. How many people are going to be affected who don't have the advantages I've had? I've always fallen into the scientific mode of thinking readily. When I was a little kid, I saw some films about evolution and how it works, and from the time I was 10 or 12 years old, it always made perfect sense to me. So one thing about biology that I got right away, and I've never forgotten, how evolution works, how science works. There are things that come naturally to me. So when I listen to 175 different doctors over months of time, I'm trying to figure out who's trying to sell me their book and their program, and who's doing research that could save people's lives. I have a natural ability to be able to dope that out. I don't know if everybody who is going to be affected has those advantages that I am just fortunate to enjoy. So then the third revelation followed quickly upon that one is, I've got to do something. I've got to do something. So I took on a mission for myself to put together a website and take these people, I invite them into my living room and I confer with them. I listen to everything they have to say. They've become my friends. And they're my heroes. And I wanted to put together a website where I could gather these people together, take the best of the best scientific research that we have available to us now to go to work on these diseases that are killing so many of us, that are reversible, that will respond to changes in what we eat and changes in how we live. It's worth mentioning, in a year's time, any one of us eating whatever we eat, we're going to take a ton of food in a year, put it in our mouth, and it's going to go through our GI tract. And as it does that, all of the molecules that are in that food are going to trade places with the molecules that are making up our bodies right now. So, doesn't it make sense to take that ton of food that you're going to eat anyway and make sure it's the best food that your body can use to stay healthy and to fight off these diseases? So, my project that I took on is what I call Your Healing Home. It's a website. I'm putting together a YouTube channel, and I'll be producing some YouTube videos of my own, some original content. We have the website address, I think, is printed in some of the information that's around. It's yourhealinghomect.com. Or you can go on Facebook and just do a search for Your Healing Home, and my Facebook page will come up. There's a blue button that says Learn More. You push that, it takes you right to the website. So I guess with that, I'm probably, that's about a half an hour talk, and we can, what do you guys want to talk about? What do you need to learn?
First, I just want to give you credit for the way you held so steadfast with your mom slamming those doors.
Yeah.
So,